How we endured 200 years in dark space, the shocking truth that haunts us forever. In the pitch-black void of space, with no stars to guide them, a fear gripped the hearts of a once vibrant crew aboard the spaceship Destiny. Time lost all meaning as the echoing silence of 2 long centuries twisted into a suffocating shroud. Each breath felt like a struggle against an unseen force, and every pulse a reminder of the dread that lingered, clawing at the edges of sanity. Whispers of ghostly shadows danced in the corner of their eyes, shadows they couldn't chase away, shadows that seemed alive, but it wasn't just the darkness that drove them to madness. No, this was deeper. There was an unsettling mystery hidden among the ruins of their missing friends, each disappearance a chilling reminder of the unknown lurking within the ship's own hull. Strange symbols carved into the walls glowed faintly, flickering like dying stars, fueling a frenzy of paranoia. Some believed they were warnings, while others saw them as a calling. As words slipped from lips in frantic prayer, it was clear that something in the deep was watching. Why had they been thrown into this eternal night? The whispers of a cursed space journey ran rampant through the ship. Stories swirled like a maelstrom, bizarre sightings of reflections that didn't belong to anyone, echoes of laughter in vacant rooms, and a suffocating sense of familiarity that almost felt welcoming. The crew looked at each other with suspicion as they shared a meal, eyes darting around as if expecting shadows to respond. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As dread seeped deeper, panic set in. They saw faces where there were none, felt the warmth of a hand that wasn't there, and heard their own names called in sorrowful tones. A tightness gripped their chests, and a lump formed in throats as the cold truth settled in. Somewhere amidst this darkness, ghosts were real, and they were not alone. Was the crew member who cracked under pressure haunting the sleeping quarters, still replaying his last moments in their minds? Or were the missing souls waiting for their chance to be remembered, tugging at the edges of reality? The walls knew their secrets, but there was one secret that only the shadows could tell. As they gathered in the command center, a flicker of light captured their attention, capturing, distorting, breathing life into faded hues. What was it? Was it salvation or another trap pulling them deeper into despair? Every step toward that glow made their skin crawl, and every heartbeat echoed their mingled fears. The future of the crew hung in the balance. Would they confront the truth, face the shadows of their past, or would they fall prey to the darkness that sought to claim them? There, in the cold grip of the void, the next move would redefine everything, change them forever. The light pulsed steadily, illuminating the command center in an eerie glow that seemed to breathe life into the room. It was surreal, a hypnotic lure that made hearts race. What if it was hope? Or a trap? Every crew member felt that shiver of fear, yet they were drawn to it, battling the instinct to flee. Do you see that? Mia whispered, her voice unnervingly calm against the chaotic backdrop of fear. The others nodded, eyes wide with dread mingled with intrigue. A glimmer of brightness coaxed them to move closer, coaxed them to discover what lay beyond the threshold of their darkest fears. As they approached, the runes on the walls began to flicker with newfound urgency, responding to their presence. Some crew members pressed their palms against the cold surface, marveling, while others recoiled, haunted by images of the missing. Mike pulled back, the echoes of their absence suffocating him. What if this is their way of calling us? Or a warning? Sandra countered sharply. We can't trust anything in here. Look what has happened to us already. But terror was eclipsed by curiosity. In that moment, curiosity felt dangerously like hope. Each heartbeat pounded in their ears as they got closer. The air felt charged, alive, almost electric as they reached the origin of the light. The symbols on the walls danced, revealing snippets of hidden messages, a celestial tongue they could not comprehend. And in the center, a dark crystalline structure pulsed rhythmically. Touch it, someone dared, the words of fragile breath against the weight of despair. No. Hands flew up in protest, but it was too late. One brave soul stepped forward, touching the crystal. A surge of energy shot through the room, illuminating shadows that hadn't stirred in decades. With a deafening crack, the crystal shattered, sending shards flying like shooting stars into the air. Screams erupted, echoing through the ship as chaos ensued. Shadows poured from the edges, swirling like a tempest, wrapping around the crew, binding them in unseen chains. Their screams morphed into agonized whispers, and with them came the lost souls' pale figures drifting, transparent yet vivid in their sorrow and rage. "Help us!" A voice, shrill and desperate, resonated among them. Recognizable, familiar, a voice that belonged to one of the missing. Panic turned to confusion, and confusion melted into despair. Each figure faded and flickered, trapped between worlds, their faces twisted with grief and longing. "Get out! Close your eyes!" Mia shouted, instinctively pulling an unwilling Natalie behind her. But it was too late. The shadows enveloped them, pulling them into a suffocating embrace. Memories flooded back, energy crackling in the air. The battles of the past merged with their present fears. What if they never escaped this never-ending nightmare? The fabric of reality began to fray, time blurred, flashing scenes from crew members' lives spiraled around them. Laughter, love, loss, all woven together into a tapestry of madness. A vision caught Mia's eye, a child's laughter, warmth, safety and home, while another vision blurred in and out, shadows clashing with a memory of loss that clawed at her heart. "What are we?" Mike gasped, fumbling, trying to grasp at the fabric of their existence. "Just lost fragments of ourselves?" The shadows flickered and surrounded them, and the chilling despair crept back. "No one knows," whispered the specter, the voice slithering into their minds. "No one, except the void." Beneath the chaos, a singular thought emerged: they had awakened something. Whether salvation or destruction, they could not turn back now. The shadows pressed in closer, calibrating their next move. With trembling hands, and hearts hammering against their chests, they had to decide to embrace the unknown or surrender to the darkness. As the weight of that choice loomed, a chilling awareness settled over them that the next moments would decide their fate. What awaited them on the other side of this shadowy encounter? Would they reclaim their lost souls, or would they become part of the void? Shadows coiled tighter, constricting the air, and the cries of the lost souls merged with the crew's panic, creating a haunting symphony of despair. Mia felt a heat pulse through her veins as fear crept in, powerful and paralyzing. "We need to fight back," she shouted, yet her voice trembled. She looked around. Natalie was gone, swallowed by the dark. "Where is she?" Mike's shout pierced through the thickening gloom. "She was right here," Mia called back, struggling to maintain clarity. "We need to stick together." But the shadows were wrapping around them, a mixture of past and present crushing their spirits. Then from the depths came a chilling laughter, dark and cruel, echoing against the steel walls. Mike's face twisted in horror, recognizing the taunt. "It can't be," he whispered, his eyes wide. "Don't listen to it." Sandra yelled desperately, clutching a railing, attempting to anchor herself. But the shadows shifted, revealing fleeting images, memories of their crew, twisted versions of themselves from before they boarded the ship. Each one a grim reminder of promises made and faded hopes. "They want us to lose faith." "No!" Mia screamed, pressing her hands to her ears, but it was no use. The whispers coiled into her mind, stealing thoughts like thieves. "We have to find Natalie." Inside the murky depths of despair, the darkness responded to their thoughts, seeking to exploit their fears. Shapes morphed and expanded, the shadows formed into figures they recognized, ghostly silhouettes of the crew they had lost, reaching out with pleading eyes. "Join us." One figure beckoned, voice echoing like shattered glass. "You have to let go." Another urged, mimicking each person's pain, revealing everyone's greatest shame. Mia stumbled backward, trying to escape, but her feet were heavy. "Please." Her voice broke, swimming through the suffocating despair. "We can't give in." She turned toward Mike, raw determination igniting a spark in her eyes. "We fight together." Without warning, the specters lunged forward, their hands made of shadows, desperate to pull them under. Heart racing, Mia felt the air shift as she thrust her palm out, drawing on instinct alone. "We are not afraid," she shouted, and with that desperate cry, the light in the command center pulsed, a bright burst against the engulfing dark. Suddenly, a fissure of light erupted between them, carving out a narrow path. "Run!" Mia yelled, grabbing Mike's hand. He hesitated, haunted eyes searching for Natalie, but the decision had been made. Pushing past the shadows, they charged through the narrow corridor formed by the light. The air grew warmer, the whispers becoming distant moans, slinking further back. But as they sprinted, the walls trembled violently, dust and debris raining down around them. "Stay close," Mike shouted, breathless. They ran, hearts pounding as the weight of regrets and fears pursued them. Just as they reached the command bridge, a deafening roar echoed through the ship. The fissure snapped shut behind them, severing any connection with the shadows they had fled. But a heavy silence replaced the chaos, an oppressive stillness that made their muscles tense. Exhausted, they collapsed against the consoles. Each crew member's face was drenched in sweat, terror still flickering in their eyes. "What was that?" Natalie's unsteady voice broke through the quiet, and Mia turned. She stared at the group, feeling the weight of their shared trauma. "Something awakened something hungry," Mike added, the realization settling like stone in their chests. As they exchanged looks, shadows crept at the edges of their peripheral vision. Deeper truths stirred beneath the surface, secrets that stretched into their pasts. An ominous shiver ran down Mia's spine. "It's not over," she murmured, glancing back at the sealed entry where they had once stood. "Then what do we do next?" Sandra asked, voice trembling. The question hung like a question mark, dangling in the air, an echo of uncertainty as heavy as the darkness they had just escaped. Mia locked eyes with her crewmates, determination igniting a spark within her. "We find out what the void wants from us," she said, taking a deep breath. But even as the words left her mouth, she felt a lurking fear. What if finding the truth would cost them everything? The shadows were whispering again, just outside the light's reach. The crew would have to confront not just the demons in the darkness, but the ones inside themselves. But little did they know, the whispers were only the beginning. Mia's heart raced as she looked around at her crew, their faces lined with fear and uncertainty. "We need to find out what it wants," she repeated, clenching her fists. "Whatever is pulling at us from the shadows, we need to confront it head-on." They huddled closer, like a small pact formed against the overwhelming darkness. Mike's eyes darted to the corners of the command bridge as if expecting something to lunge out at them at any moment. "But how? How do we fight something we don't even understand?" His voice wavered, a quiet tremble that resonated with the tension in the air. "We dig deeper, uncover every secret this ship has," Sandra chimed in, her resolve building like a fortress. "Find the logs, look at everything. There's got to be something that explains all this." "No," Mia countered, shivering involuntarily as she felt a chill seep through the ship's metal walls. "It's about more than just finding records. It's about facing ourselves." The air felt heavy, thick with past echoes, each crew member wrestling with their individual ghosts. A low drone reverberated through the ship, growing louder. It pulled their focus, and they turned in unison toward the sound, eyes scanning the dimly lit space. "What is that?" Natalie asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Suddenly, a flickering monitor came to life, casting an eerie glow across their faces. "Warning, unauthorized entity detected in Section D," a robotic voice droned monotonously. "Initiating lockdown procedure." "What the hell?" Mike snapped, backing away from the console, but it was too late. The doors slammed shut, sealing them inside the bridge. The lights began to dim, and a tremor rushed through the ship again, this time more fierce. No! We can't get trapped again. Sandra yelled, her panic rising. She rushed to bang on the door, but it held firm like a steel wall. Mia, what do we do? Mike pleaded, glancing wildly at their surroundings. Think. Mia closed her eyes for a moment, overwhelmed. The shadows were growing thicker, creeping into the edges of the room like an insidious tide. We need to. Before she could finish, the holographic screen flickered and began to display bizarre images, distorted faces, ominous figures, and places that felt all too familiar. What are you showing us? Mia called out, her throat dry, feeling the weight of countless eyes upon her. The images turned darker, the figures twisting into grotesque versions of the crew. You let them die, one echoed through the chamber, twisted with malice. You forgot them. Sandra gasped, pressing her palms to her head, shaking as the words pierced her heart. No, I didn't. I tried. A booming roar roared through the ship, causing the crew to stagger. The lights flickered, shadows writhing like living creatures around them. We need to share it, Mia shouted into the chaos, voice fervent. Share our fears, expose our truths. Together. Their faces reflected uncertainty, but one by one, they nodded. I always felt responsible for the accident, Natalie spoke through shaking breaths. I thought we would have survived if I had just stopped. Mike interrupted, pain lacing his voice. We all have baggage. But it's not the past we should be looking at, it's how we move forward. With each shared vulnerability, the shadows seemed to shift, each confession carving away at the dark cocoon that encased them. They spoke one by one, pouring out their hearts, their burdens ebbing through the words like fading echoes, but deep down, Mia sensed an uneasy undercurrent. The shadows shifted closer, swirling in response to their revelations, a sinister hunger lurking just out of sight. Mia took a deep breath, her instincts firing within her. We're not done yet, she said firmly, eyes blazing with resolve. But it's only going to get worse from here. We'll face this, but we need to stay together. Yet, even as she spoke, the shadows coalesced, a larger darkness preparing to engulf them once more. And then, a voice burst through the cacophony, you cannot escape me. The chilling proclamation echoed off the walls, sending a shiver down Mia's spine. They weren't just facing their own fears, something far more powerful lurked in the abyss, hungry for their most hidden truths. Mia's eyes widened as dark tendrils shot toward them, probing their minds, threatening to unravel everything they had just built. No! We won't be your prisoners! She yelled, pushing back with everything she had. In that moment, the lights flickered out completely. They were plunged into darkness, heartbeats thudding in tandem, dread dripping like sweat down their spines. What awaited them in the void? Would they shatter like glass, or would their unity hold against the rising tide? As silence enveloped them, the crew huddled closer, clinging to the last vestiges of hope and the faint glimmer of light from within each other. But the question remained, who would be the first to break? The darkness was suffocating, an oppressive weight that clung to their skin. Each shivering breath felt like inhaling shadows. Mia's mind raced, searching for an answer, a spark of light amid the engulfing void. Hold on to each other. She called out, her voice a beacon in the thick blackness. Who's there? Mike shouted, panic twisting his words. He moved closer, heart hammering, listening for a response. The sounds around them shifted, a whisper of movement, the scrape of something sinister brushing against the walls. It felt alive. Sandra grabbed Mia's arm tightly, her fingers digging in like clawing vines. What if we can't get out of here? What if it really is feeding off us? Her voice trembled, breaking like fragile glass. Mia forced back the swell of dread rising in her throat. No! We're stronger together. We can't let it break us, she shouted, trying to rally the dwindling hope within them. A flash ignited the dark for a split second, revealing their faces contorted with fear, eyes wide and glistening. Then, in that same instant, another roar erupted, a guttural growl that vibrated through their bones, deep and resonant. "You are nothing." The voice echoed, louder now, rattling the very core of the ship. "Focus!" Mia cried, voice infused with an edge of desperation. "Focus on our truths. We can't let it win." But doubt creeped in, threading through the cracks of their resolve like a malevolent gas. Was exposing their truths really what the shadows wanted? What if it thrived on their pain, growing stronger with every confession? "Secrets are just that," Natalie's voice broke through the haze, her breath shaky but steady. "We can't uncover them because they're all tangled up." She paused, her words heavy with unspoken shame, vibrating against the cold steel walls. "What if we can't really confront what's inside us? What if it wins?" An icy chill swept over the crew, a collective horror dawning as her words sank in. With every second, the shadows pressed closer, tendrils flickering through the air, wrapping around the crew like sinister vines. Mia felt them probing, searching for weaknesses. "We have to share, even the ugly parts," she urged, squaring her shoulders against the encroaching darkness. "We must keep fighting. Let it all out." Sandra wailed, her voice cracking. "Or we'll be swallowed whole." The group began to speak in frantic bursts, pouring their secrets into the void, desperation guiding their words. Each revelation seemed to act like a bomb, even if only for a moment. Mia could feel the shifting shadows pulling back slightly with every truth laid bare. "I never wanted to be here," Mike shouted, voice raw. "I thought this was my chance to be someone, to escape. I should have said something before." Natalie cried, words tumbling out like an avalanche. "I should have enough." Mia took a deep breath, her heart racing. "Don't get lost in the past. It'll drown you. Stay present." Another roar cut through their words, shattering the fragile moment. The shadows surged forward, a dark wave colliding with them. A massive shadow grappling for the light they bore. Each individual revealed a piece of themselves, but it came with a price. The weight of their fears loomed heavy. "We can't falter," Mia screamed, channeling everything she had. "We will stand together." As her declaration echoed into the darkness, a faint light sparked, tiny at first, but gaining strength with every moment they held on to each other's truths. But even as hope seeped in alongside the glow, another voice snaked through the air, laced with chilling delight. "You think you can defeat me with such trifles?" Mia's heart dropped as the shadows shifted, writhing, rearranging themselves into a form that mirrored her own, a grotesque copy, eyes void of humanity. This wasn't just a battle for survival, it was a battle for identity. They had woken something dark, something that fed off despair and doubt. And now, it wasn't just their past haunting them, it was their very essence at stake. "Are you ready to face your true selves?" The voice taunted, lingering in the air like a faded echo. With the light growing dimmer, the crew recoiled, teetering on the precipice of fracture. Would they rally against their doppelgangers, or would they sink into the darkness of what they feared to face? The shadows loomed ever closer, their forms twitching, waiting for one of them to break. Who would give in first, and how much would it cost them all? The shadows twisted, forming grotesque versions of themselves, each doppelganger reflecting their inner fears back at them. Mia's copy grinned, its lips curling into a malevolent smile. It was a mirror image, but with a darkness that threatened to consume her. "Do you see? This is what you really are." The voice was silk and daggers, slithering into her mind like poison. "You run from it, but here it is, right in front of you. You can't escape it." Mia gritted her teeth, defiance igniting a fire in her chest. "You're wrong," she yelled. "I'm stronger than my fears." Next to her, Mike stumbled back, eyes wide as he faced his counterpart, a specter of failure. "You'll never be more than a joke," it sneered, mirroring his doubts. "All you've done is run. Isn't it time to admit you're just a coward?" No! Mike shouted, his voice thick with anguish. He clutched his fists, shaking. I've faced challenges. I can't let you define me. The shadows rippled with energy, their forms flickering as the crew squared their shoulders. But with every act of bravado, the monstrous versions twisted their grins wider. They fed off the distress, engorging themselves like parasitic leeches, drawing out every last thread of confidence. Natalie's doppelganger emerged next. It wore her past like an unsettling cloak, with a whispered accusation that paralyzed her. Instead of helping, you just watched. You left them behind, it hissed, the words jagged blades cutting deep into her. No! Natalie gasped, hands flying to her face. That's not true. I tried. I did my best. But her voice quavered, uncertainty radiating off her like magnetic pull. Sandra stood frozen, her eyes glued to the entity that imitated her darkest memories. You're nothing but a burden, it snarled, a twisted reflection of her self-loathing. Always holding everyone back, dragging them down. Stop! She cried, voice cracking with the weight of despair coursing through her. I chose to stay. I wanted to. The shadows tensed, sensing the crack in her resolve. Suddenly, a wave of warmth pulsed through Mia, brightening the surrounding darkness. Remember your truth. She screamed, her mind honing in on the flickering light. They're lies. Don't listen to them. The group's collective fear ricocheted, but it ignited something deeper strength from within. One by one, they exchanged glances, each one a spark of solidarity. The glimmer of hope grew, pulsing as they repeated the truths they dared not speak, affirming their worth against the shadows' gripping claws. I've fought for what I believe in. Mike shouted, summoning the courage to confront his specter. I'm not a coward, I'm a survivor. I chose to forgive myself. Natalie's voice climbed in strength, every syllable like a hammer pounding against the ice wall of her guilt. I am not defined by what I couldn't do. Without me, you wouldn't all be here. Sandra cried, shaking off the weight of her burden. I'm a lifeline, not a weight. With each declaration, the light intensified, a beacon illuminating the collection of terrified souls joined in defiance. But the shadows reacted violently, thrashing in agony. You cannot outshine what has been dimmed. The voice howled, reverberating through the wreckage of their fear and pain. Mia drew in a deep breath, a new determination flooding her veins. Then we will burn brighter. Together. She stepped forward, light blossoming from her chest, consuming everything around them. As their truths enveloped them in radiant warmth, the shadow figures hissed, their shrieks an orchestra of despair. The crew surged as one, their combined energy shifting the very fabric of the darkness, forcing it back inch by inch, but would it be enough? As the shadows reluctantly retreated, they didn't vanish completely. They lingered just beyond the light, their whispers a promise of return. The battle was raging, but another fear crept in. Could they truly defeat what they harbored within? The air thickened again, pulsing with an almost tangible tension. From the depths of the void, a new threat stirred, and as the light dimmed, one question loomed. Larger than all, what if the ultimate darkness was not outside but inside them? Mia shivered, the weight of the impending revelation settling like lead in her stomach. Who were they truly facing, and what secrets buried in their hearts would come to haunt them next? The darkness shimmered, swirling ominously around them like a living entity, watching. The air felt electrified, heavy with unspoken fears and suppressed truths. Mia's heart raced as she looked at her friends, their faces illuminated by the faint glow from within. She felt the collective dread hanging over them like a shadow, threatening to implode into chaos once more. Natalie's voice trembled. What if we're not strong enough? What if it's all in vain? Every single one of us has the strength, Mia assured, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. We can't let them win. Remember why we came together in the first place. But a shiver of doubt crept in as Natalie's doppelganger reappeared. It echoed her despair, its voice a venomous whisper. "You'll never escape the weight of your choices," it taunted, eyes glimmering with mockery. "Shut up!" Natalie screamed, hands clenching at her sides. Fire danced in her eyes, but the fear clawed at her resolve. "You don't get to speak to me. You're just a reflection." The shadow cackled, shrinking into the thickening haze. "Just like you, I'm a part of you. You can deny it, but deep down, you know it's true." "Keep talking," Mike chimed in, his voice surprisingly calm. "We'll just keep reclaiming what's ours." "It's easy to rage against our fears," the figure jeered. "What are you without your false bravado? A hollow shell, empty and broken." Mike's fists tightened. "No more," he bellowed, stepping forward. The heat of anger washed over him, propelling him to confront his haunting self. "I'm building, not destroying. What you say means nothing." With each command, the shadows thrashed, twisting and tangling with each other as if rather than taking shape, they were actively pushing against the force within. The darkness shivered, a tangible tremor that caused the ground beneath them to quake. Mia felt the pulse of light from her heart begin to wane in its intensity, and she fought against the instinct to shrink back. "We have to stand as one," she shouted, desperately trying to rally the group back together. They couldn't afford to falter, not now. Suddenly, an unexpected roar of laughter erupted from the shadows. A new figure, larger and more frightening than the rest, emerged from the darkness, a towering giant made of swirling whispers, embodying their deepest shame. Its voice boomed like thunder, cold and mocking. "They say you rise together, but who will lead if you're all so internally fractured?" "Stop it!" Sandra cried, her own shadow solidifying beside the giant. It was an image of her intertwined with despair, regret, and isolation. "You won't take us down. We're more than what we fear. I am the fear within you." The giant bellowed, the ground shaking with its energy. Mia felt her heart race, the darkness closing in once again. This was relentless, consuming in ways they had never imagined. With the shadows looming and doubts mounting, she realized they were all in a dance of wretchedness, spinning closer and closer to their own destruction. "Listen!" Mia shouted, cutting through the cacophony. "We each hold pieces of the truth. The shadows can't drown us if we share what's inside." The atmosphere thickened, silence pressing down like a weighted net, the figure's eyes fixated on her, reflecting their uncertainty. "What are you afraid of, Mia?" whispered a shadow, taking on her likeness again. "What secret are you hiding?" A lump formed in Mia's throat, and in that moment, the urge to speak her truth burned. Could she confront her own darkness? Would revealing her deepest fear grant her power, or would it undermine everything she fought for? With her emotions swirling, she took a step into the dim void. "I fear," she began, hesitating. The weight of the world pressed down on her shoulders. "I fear being truly seen." Gasps echoed through the group, their eyes widening. The response from the shadows was immediate, a wicked smile spreading across the doppelgangers, echoing the turmoil within. Could they continue to hold on to their light, or would revealing their deepest struggles become their downfall? As Mia stood at the edge of this revelation, the walls of darkness surged forward, threatening to swallow her whole. Would their truths liberate them or leave them lost forever in the abyss? The question hung in the tension-filled air, and fear coursed through her veins like ice. Would they each find freedom or only bring deeper shadows to the surface? Mia's voice broke through the silence, hanging heavily in the air like a wet blanket. The shadows pulsated with her words, as if tasting the fear that flavored them. Doubts swirled around, digging at the edges of her heart. She knew she had to push on, they couldn't falter now. Together, she urged, locking eyes with each friend in turn, grounding herself in their shared bond. "We need to share everything. No walls. Just truth." Natalie stepped forward, her gaze unwavering. "Okay, I'll go first. I fear not being enough. I think I'll always fall short." The admission hung like a lead weight, yet there was a glimmer of defiance in her voice, as if shedding that fear could lighten her load. The shadows recoiled slightly, their hold on the group flickering uncertainly. "I feel that," Mike chimed in, his knuckles still white from anger. "It's like I'm running in place, terrified that I'll let everyone down. I'm scared of failure." Each confession burned off layers of the darkness, exposing vulnerabilities that had lain hidden for too long. As they revealed their fears one by one, Sandra shared her clinging regret, and Liam faced his paralyzing anxiety. Something shifted. The suffocating pressure around them began to ease, shrinking slightly. They were sharing the weight, lightening the load. But just as the gloom receded, the giant roared in anger, its voice booming, echoing off invisible walls. "You think your confessions mean anything? You can't hide from the fear within. I will consume you whole. We won't let you." Natalie's defiance ignited with a fierce brightness. "Our truths are our strength." The ground writhed beneath them, tremors escalating as the shadows surged forward. But Mia felt it, a pulse of shared light growing stronger. She stepped back from the encroaching darkness, feeling the heat of connection fusing them. "Together," Mia called out, her voice slicing through the chaos. "We are not alone in this. Our truths give us power. We are real. We are brave." With forth pronouncements, Mia led the charge, and they channeled their energy into a radiant wave. It rippled from their hearts, illuminating the shadowy forms around them. The air swirled with electrical energy, a storm building as their confessions mingled. "Face it," Mia cried, feeling more like herself with every word. "We are more than our fears. We must harness this. You are part of me, and I am part of you. Together, we can win this." The giant faltered, its form flickering like a candle in the wind. The shimmer of shadows wavered, lost against the bright unity radiating from the circle of friends. Whatever darkness lay within them seemed less oppressive when met not as a single entity but as a community. But as they pressed onward, something dark slithered through the edges of their consciousness, a deeper fear that had yet to be named. Mia's heart pounded, suddenly aware that they were approaching an unknown precipice. "What if you are not enough to face the truth?" whispered a smaller shadow, more sinister this time, slinking between the larger figures. "What happens when you see exactly what lies beneath?" Mia felt a chill crawl down her spine. Was there something even darker waiting just beyond their current struggle? As the light within them flickered, uncertainty filled the space, a tension coiling tighter like an impending storm. Would their connection hold strong, or would this darkness consume the fragile light they had forged? The room shook, and fear clawed at them, but Mia's voice rose above it all, firm and unwavering. "What will happen next depends on us." As she finished, the shadows converged once more, and the air crackled with intensity. What lay ahead could tear them apart or forge a stronger bond than they imagined. Mia braced herself as the shadows surged, realizing they were only beginning to peel back the layers of their fears. What came next would determine everything, and the end felt ever more uncertain. Would they succumb to what lurked beneath, or could they rise again? The answer was just out of reach, hiding in the darkness. The shadows lunged, engulfing them in a suffocating grip. The friends stood firm, a trembling unity, but the encroaching darkness whispered like venom in their ears. "You think you can fight me?" it hissed. "You are nothing without your fears." Mia felt her feet shift, an instinctive urge to back away. But she forced her body to stay put, eyes wide with determination. "No!" she shouted, every ounce of defiance poured into that single word. "We are not nothing." With each pulse of energy from their collective truths, tendrils of darkness shriveled, retreating momentarily. Yet, a deeper malevolence loomed, wrapping itself around them like a vice. It grew denser, thicker, twisting the very air they breathed into a lament of despair. Liam gasped, sweat pooling at his brow. "What if we can't overcome it? What if this is who we really are?" His voice trembled, and Mia felt his fear tightening around her like a noose. No. Natalie shot back, her voice fierce as steel. That's exactly what it wants us to think. We can't give in to that lie. The shadows writhed with displeasure, a growl rippling through the air. You're just children playing games. Embrace your darkness. It's safer there, isn't it? Mia's heart raced. Was it safer? The idea clawed at her insides. A quick glance exchanged with each of her friends assured her they wouldn't allow it. They stood on a precipice, where real fears collided with the shadows that threatened to pull them under. Confessions, once liberating, now seemed inadequate against the looming tide of what they hadn't yet faced. What's really underneath? She pondered, a question weighty with significance. What if our truths are just the surface? The ground shook violently again, and chunks of earth flew as the shadows, a monstrous fluid mass, struck back. You're close, Mia. So close to the secret. Can you feel it? Her breath caught. Was there truly a secret? Mia squeezed her eyes shut against the exasperating uncertainty. Let's dig deeper. She shouted, forcing conviction into her voice. Let's face it together. The group formed a tighter circle, each friend gripping hands, their energy intertwined. A brilliant flash erupted from within, illuminating their surroundings for a split second. Mia felt warmth spreading through her, radiating from their core. We can do this, she urged, trying to pull more from her soul. Natalie added her strength. Yes. We each bring something unique. Fear isn't strong enough to keep us apart. Flickers of shapes erupted within the shadows as truths rallied around them. A flood of every doubt, regret, and sorrow they held began to surface like dark froth. Mia's pulse quickened. What if we can't handle what's truly beneath? She murmured, her voice barely a whisper. The shadows seized on her hesitance, swelling in reaction. Suddenly, Sandra's hand squeezed her own. We share it all, remember? Even our deepest truths. No retreat. Mia nodded, feeling the weight of that intensity. The air crackled, particles of hope began to coalesce, swirling around them in captivating spirals. But as they pressed forward, the inner darkness morphed once more. It contorted, shifting and shaping into something grotesque, something intimately familiar. What if this is all a game? It challenged, a voice deeper and richer than before. What if what lies beneath is merely a reflection of your ever-fading light? Mia's skin crawled at the implication, the question seeping into her core like ice water. Could this shadow be right? What if they were destined to be trapped in the darkness forever? The room spun, shadows merging to form a nightmarish figure, a twisted amalgamation of the fears they'd admitted. Face me. It commanded, a mocking laughter echoing in the charged air. Mia's heart raced at the impending confrontation. If this truth held power over them, what would it take to conquer? Would their bond be enough, or would the looming shadow unravel them at the seams? What if all this time we've been running from an illusion? She breathed, eyes narrowing in clarity. And just as she began to understand the true nature of their challenge, the darkness pulsed, shifting into a terrifying semblance of their collective failure, each failure a scar, a memory that whispered pain. As they braced for the confrontation, one question loomed in the air, lingering between breath and scream. Would they stand resolute, or would they tumble into despair? The shadows crept closer, and a decision loomed. Where do they draw the line before it was too late? The shadows twisted, their whispers louder than ever. Each crew member felt a weight pressing down, heavier than before, urging them to submit to the darkness. But Mia stood firm, heart racing with fierce knowledge. We've already come this far. We can't turn back now. The grotesque figures surrounding them flickered in and out, haunted by each admission. Pain transformed into memory, sordid reflections of the lives they wished they could escape. Still, that spark of defiance flared brighter within the circle. It doesn't matter what we've done," Mike cried, taking a bold step forward. "We're here now, and we can choose to be more than our fears." The darkness surged forward, darker and more ominous, as if it wanted to swallow their hope whole. "You can't share a moment of light without remembering the shadows," it roared, its voice hanging in the air like a thick fog, but they would not falter. "We don't have to give in." Natalie broke through with newfound bravery, her eyes fierce. "These shadows are just echoes. No one is defined by their past." The crew found their voices, rallying together, reminding each other of their strengths. "We have love, loyalty without limits," Sandra shouted, each word feeding the energy surrounding them. "We hold each other accountable." With every affirmation, a ripple of light grew, radiating with each claim they reversed against the specters clawing at them. "We can't let you in," Mia shouted again, disbelief coursing through her veins. "Your lies are weak, just like you." Chaos erupted in the room, shadows convulsing and thrashing violently against the defiance. Yet, instead of retreating, Mia felt the warmth of her crew's trust rising like a phoenix, their bond strengthened through shared anguish. It surged within her, wrapping around each of them like a protective shield. "Let us shine as one," Mia urged, fear mingling with fierce determination. "With every truth we've laid bare, we're adding a flicker to the fight." It win. In that moment, they harnessed the collective energy, fusing it into a single bellow of united strength. "We are more than fickle shadows," they cried, lifting their hands in solidarity. Brilliance erupted between them, light pouring forth, scattering the darkness like dawn breaking through the cold black night. At first, the shadows recoiled, cracking under the weight of their resolve, but then they coiled tighter, desperate to snuff out the hope. All that fear they carried began to unravel as light coursed through each of them. They held out their hands, letting warmth bloom, casting the shadows further back. With a final surge, Mia couldn't help but shout, together. "We are whole and unstoppable." Light exploded around them, flooding the space. Shimmering against the onslaught, Mia pressed forward, laced with fury and determination, until she stood in the eye of their collective power. "You will not take us without a fight," she bellowed, focused on the figure of their greatest tormentor. In that instant, the blinding light consumed the shadows, rupturing the presence of their fears. A guttural scream reverberated, shaking the walls. The specters distorted before their eyes, tumbling into darkness as beams of light coalesced, bearing down on them in radiant defiance. The shadows screamed as they were pulled away, spells of despair unraveling beneath the purity of unity. The ship trembled, desolate echoes of anguish unveiling true freedom. Still, as the shadows dissolved, Mia felt a deeper clarity emerge, the weight on her heart lightened, breath inhaling deeply. Mia turned to her crewmates, who stood panting around her, faces glowing with the triumph of their truths. "We did it. We faced our fears." Cooling silence replaced the chaos, a soft hum enveloped them, vibrating with the promise of renewal. But shadows still lingered in the corners, whispering faintly, reminding them it wasn't over. "We need to remember what we've faced," Sandra said, catching her breath. "Let us ensure we're never lost again." Mia nodded, feeling a surge of unity. "We'll face each day knowing the darkness exists, but we're never alone. We'll keep this light burning." As the crew huddled together, they felt lighter, warmer, bound by promises and shared experiences that shaped them into who they were. Mia released a breath, bittersweet and full. "We faced a darkness that lived within. And maybe the most beautiful light comes from overcoming that." In that unsteady space of hope and scars, they transformed. "Let us move forward, together," she led, voices steady. But outside their ship, the void remained a vast, endless space, dark and beckoning. Yet now, that darkness neither held their past nor their fears. It was just the backdrop to their newfound light. As they navigated onward, tears turned into laughter, and grit settled into strength. They would carry each other's burdens just as they held on to their bright light. Ready, Destiny? Mia whispered into the cosmos. And though the journey lay ahead, they all knew no fear could hold them back now. They had emerged from the dark, hand-in-hand.so, as they ventured out into the endless night, they were no longer frightened. They were the light. They were the journey. Take this journey of hope and triumph with you. Beware the shadows, but embrace your light. And now, if you've enjoyed this conclusion, it's time for you to take action. You need to subscribe now and become part of this growing community. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep these stories alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Let us hear all of what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this incredible journey with at least 5 friends who need to see the power of hope. Your support matters.